Hello everyone, welcome to day 133 of a Stitch a Day 365 days crochet challenge. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to crochet the puff shell star stitch. Yes, so this is a kind of like an intermediate level stitch. So I'm going to be very slow with the explanation process. Okay, so here I have a diagram of the stitch. So few points before we go into the stitch. There are totally three different kinds of rows. Okay, so let's say the chain is row 1, the shell, first shell, which is the setup row, which is row 2. Okay, so these two are totally different. This is just the setup row, it will not be a repeat row. Now, so this is setup row is 1, and there are two kinds of repeat row. So totally three different types of stitches that we'll be combining. Okay, now row 3, which is this one, the one in yellow. Okay, row 3 is your repeat row 1. Row 4, which is in green, is your repeat row 2. Okay, again the one in yellow here is row 5, which is your repeat row 3, and the one in red here is your row 6, which is your repeat row 4. So once you have reached this R4, you are again going to start from R1 and repeat all the way. Now again, in the repeat row there are two kinds of repeat row. One is the chain repeat row, the other one is the shell repeat row. R1 and R3 are your chain repeat row. R1 is a full shell chain. It will make sense once I explain the whole pattern. R3 is a half shell chain. Okay, and R2 and R4 are your shell rows. R2 is a half shell row, R4 is a full shell row. Okay, so always a half shell is followed by a half shell chain, full shell is followed by a full shell chain. Okay, so these are all the terms that we'll be going through in this stitch. Now for the stitch multiple, it is multiple of 9 plus 2. Okay, so I'm going to chain multiple of 9, and for the sake of the video I'm going to do 27 plus 2, that is 29 stitches, and I'll meet you back once I have 29 chains. Okay. And one more point to remember is this stitch is to be crocheted in a yarn which has a little bit of give, that is, which has a little soft texture. If you're going for a bulky weight yarn, or if you're going for a thick cotton yarn, it's not going to work out because the shells are quite delicate and it requires a delicate yarn. The one I'm using is Yarn Wonders cotton yarn, and it's going to be used with a 2.5 mm crochet hook, which is slightly larger for this particular stitch. So I have 29 stitches. Now let's start with the pattern. I'm starting from here. Yes. So I have 27 stitches plus 2, which is 29. Into the second chain from the hook, I'm making 1 single crochet. Okay, so now another rule to remember is both the sides of the shell has chain 4. It might be a half shell, which is right here, or a full shell. Any shell, it has chain 4 on either sides. Chain 4, chain 4, even in a half shell. Okay, so now after the first single crochet, we are going to chain 4, 3, 4. Now, right from the next stitch, that is, we skipped one chain, made one single crochet, and into the third chain from the foundation chain, you're going to start making the puff shell stitch. That is, you're going to pick up yarn over and pick up a yarn. That is 1, 2 into the next 8 stitches in total, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so in total you'll have 17 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 17. Okay, you're going to yarn over and pull out of all the loops except one. You're going to pull out of 16 loops, and then you're going to yarn over and close the shell. So this is our very first star shell puff stitch, or puff shell star stitch. Now, as I told you, we have completed a shell, so we are going to do a chain 4. Okay, so this chain 4 is very important because this is where we are going to place the next stitch. Now we have completed the first shell. We have to place one single crochet, and that completes our very first shell. Again, we are going to start the next shell. Before that, we have to chain 4. Okay, and right from the next stitch, so this is the chain where your single crochet is. Right from this stitch, you're going to start off your puff shell stitch. So that's 1 into the next 8 loops, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Again, you'll have 17 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull out of 16 loops. That is leaving the last loop, and yarn over, pull out of these 2 loops and close. Again, you have completed a shell, so you have to do a chain 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay, again one single crochet into the very next stitch, and you're going to again chain 4, shell. So basically chain 4, shell, single crochet, chain 4, shell, chain 4, single crochet, again chain 4, shell, and ends with a single crochet. So into the next 8 loops we are going to make 1 yarn over, pull out into the next 8 loops, making the shell stitches. End of it, you'll have 1 stitch left, into which you'll be making 1 single crochet. Okay, so again chain 4 and 1 single crochet. Okay, so that completes our row 1. Okay, We started off with 1 single crochet, chain 4, shell into the next 8 loops, chain 4, 1 single crochet, again chain 4, shell into the next 8, chain 4, shell, single crochet, again chain 4, shell into the next 8 chains, and chain 4 and a single crochet at the last stitch. Now moving on to the second row. So this second row is your very first chain row, okay, which is a full shell chain. So just like I told you at the start of the video, a full shell row is always followed by a full shell chain, okay, which is you start off with a chain 1, turn your work, chain 9, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and then single crochet onto the first single crochet right here. That is, you're going to skip the shell and directly single crochet on top of the single crochet which is right here. Again chain 9, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. A full shell chain is always 9 single crochet, 9 chains and 1 single crochet between the shell stitches. That is, you're just going to crochet 9 chains and make 1 single crochet on top of the single crochet you made. Again 9 single crochet, 9 single crochet. That's all. So it's a very simple row. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. Okay, and into the last single crochet you are again going to make 1 single crochet. So that completes our row 2, row 3 and our first repeat row. Now moving on to the next row, which is a half shell row. Okay, now because we have full shells here, we are going to place the shell stitches in between the shell, so that we need 1 half shell here and 1 half shell here. Just like I told you, always chain 4 before and after the shells. We are just going to start with a chain 4. Okay, now turn your work, and we are not going to work on this 9 chains. We are going to work on these 4 chains right here. That is before and after the shells, the 4 chains that we made. That is the only place where we'll be crocheting the shell stitches. The half shell chain row and the half full shell chain row we will not be working. That is, these chain stitches will not be working into. We will only be crocheting onto the shell rows, which always keeping 1 row in between. So these chains are just to turn your work to one side so that all your puff stitches are aligned. Okay, so now I started off with a chain 4, yarn over, and you're going to take out 1 loop from each of the 4 chains from row 2, that is here. You're going to skip these 9 chains and you're going to crochet over it though. That is, the 9 chains will be hidden inside your shell stitches. Okay, so if you want this pattern, you can just DM, because with the pattern instruction it is easier to follow. We'll also be posting this on our Insta page as well. Okay, so I completed 4 yarn over and pull out, and I have pulled out of all stitches except 1. Now yarn over and close this. So we have completed a half shell. Immediately crochet 4 chains. Always before and after you have to make 4 chains, because these are the chains that we'll be working the next shell stitches into. Now you have 4 chains. You're going to make 1 single crochet into the eye of the previous row shell, and again we are going to start off the next shell. So chain 4, and you're going to do the 8 shell full shell stitch by picking up 1 loop from the 4 chains right here and the 4 chains right here, placing the puff stitch between these 2 puff stitches. So the first, make sure you go into the very first chain because it's a little tricky. So as you can see, I have 1, 2, 3 and 4. So yarn over, go into the very first chain, pull out a loop, yarn over, go into the next one, pull out a loop, yarn over, go into the next one, pull out a loop, yarn over, go into the next one, pull out a loop. Here we are at the single crochet from 2 rows below. You'll skip that and directly go into these 4 chains into the next puff stitch, into the start of the next puff stitch, pulling out 1 loop from each of the 4 chains. Okay, again yarn over, pull out of all the loops except one, yarn over and close the shell. So we have placed one shell in between. Now again chain 4, single crochet into the eye and the next shell. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Pick up 1 loop from each of the 4 chains from 2 rows below. Make sure you go into the very first chain because that is the tricky part, because that chain tends to get hidden inside your single crochet stitch. This is an amazing stitch to crochet scarves and any dress that requires a delicate stitch. So again you're going to skip this 1 single crochet right here, go into the next 4 and completing the shell stitch that you're making. Yarn over, pull out of all the loops except one, yarn over, pull out of those 2 as well and close your shell. Now we have space just for a half shell. So again chain 4, complete this shell with a single crochet into the eye, which is right here. Okay, and chain 4 before you start the half shell. Yarn over, pull out a loop, yarn over, pull out a loop, yarn over, pull out a loop from each of the 4 chains that are below. Okay, yarn over, pull out of all loops except one and close your shell. Now instead of a chain 4, we are going to make a triple crochet on top of the single crochet from 2 rows below. That counts as a chain 4. So we have completed this row, which is right here. I pulled out 1 loop from each of the 4 chains from either side of the shells, creating a half shell and a single crochet, then creating 2 full shells, placing it between the shells from the previous row and completing with a half shell. Now moving on to the third row of repeat. Okay, so now we are going to the half shell chain. Okay, because we did a half shell row, we are going to do a half shell chain. Half shell chain is again, you chain 1, turn your work, chain 4 and you crochet on top of the single crochet which is right here and chain 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and skip the shell, single crochet right here, again chain 9. So the half shell is basically you start and end with 4 chains. In between you're going to do the same 9 chains. Okay, you skip one shell in between and single crochet onto the next one. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. So I'm going to skip this shell and I'm going to single crochet at the end of the shell, again making a chain 4, single crochet on top of the chain 4 from the start of the previous row. Okay, so that completes our row 3, which is row 3 of the repeat row or row 5. Now moving on to the full shell row. So by now you would have guessed the pattern. You're going to chain 1, turn your work, chain 4, 1 2 3 4, and you're going to crochet 2 rows below, picking up one one shell post from each of the chain 4. Okay, so that's 1 2 3 and 4, and skip the single crochet and you're going to crochet into these 4 stitches. 1 2 3 and 4. This forms the very first full shell. So the full shell row starts with a full shell, half shell row starts with a half shell. Again, you have completed a shell, so you have to crochet 4 chains and you're going to single crochet into the eye, which is right here, starting off the next shell by chaining 4 and picking up one loop from each of the 4 chains, which is right here between the shell stitches from the previous row. Skip the single crochet, find the next chain 4, which is right here, the first and the last chain are a little bit tricky because it gets pulled into the adjacent stitches. Again, chain 4, single crochet into the eye, okay, again chain 4, again pulling out one stitch from one post from each of the 4 chains below, skip the single crochet in between and pull out one post from each of the chain 4 from the previous row. Again chain 4 after completing the shell, make one single crochet into the eye, sorry, so this is the row we are crocheting on top of the single crochet. Okay, so your row should look something like this. Now it's time to start the repeat row. Now you can just rewind the video to repeat row 1, then repeat row 2, repeat row 3 and repeat row 4. So do a couple of repeat rows so you will understand the pattern well before you start a larger piece. So we have completed a full shell. Now we have to do a full shell chain. Okay, so I'm going to leave the pattern right here. You can take a screenshot and So basically it is a, you're going to start off from R1, R2, R3, R4, and then again R1, R2, R3, R4, again R1, R2, R3, R4. So this is the repeat cycle. Do try out the stitch. If you have any doubts, please reach us on to DM. We will definitely get to it. And I'll meet you tomorrow with yet another interesting crochet pattern. Thank you.